Oreo, or technically the parent company of Oreo, Mondelez International, is suing Aldi, claiming that their private label version of Oreos violates the trademark that Mondelez has on Oreos. Basically, they're saying that it's too similar. Here are the details. Oreo maker Mondelez sues Aldi over copycat packaging. Mondelez International, the maker of snacks like Oreo, Chips Ahoy, and Nutter Butter, has filed a trademark infringement lawsuit against Aldi, accusing the supermarket of blatantly copying the packaging of its food products. In May, Mondelez, an Illinois corporation, submitted a 72-page federal complaint that claims Aldi uses similar packaging in its store items that, quote, trades upon the valuable reputation and goodwill of multiple, quote, cookie and cracker snack products. The violation that Mondelez International is claiming is called a trade dress violation, and we can read more about that here. A trade dress design is the design and shape of the materials in which a product is packaged. Product configuration, the design and shape of the product itself, may also be considered a form of trade dress. The Lanham Act protects trade dress if it serves the same source identifying function as a trademark. Basically, it's when you copy the look of a certain product with the intention of getting customers to consider your product and the other product basically the same, and as a result of that, purchasing your product over the other product. In one very famous case of this, Apple sued Samsung for trade dress violation, saying that Samsung's phones too closely mimicked Apple's phones. Here you can see some of the things that Apple was alleging. A home button in the middle, rounded edges, screen with apps and layouts, 4 apps here, 4 apps here, and basically just the overall vibe, I guess you could say, or the dress of the iPhone was being copied by Samsung at the time because Apple had so much goodwill. And quite frankly, Samsung wanted to benefit from that. And so Apple claimed that Samsung was intentionally making their Samsung Galaxy phones look very similar to Apple phones so that people would see them next to each other and then, based upon the good reputation of Apple, purchase a Samsung phone because they seem equivalent. The very important distinction between trade dress and trademark violation is that there's not a specific patent that is being violated. Samsung wasn't putting the Apple logo on their products or claiming to be selling Apple phones. They were selling phones that were so similar in appearance that Apple believed that they were trying to steal their customer. And this is essentially what Mondelez International is alleging that Aldi is doing. Back to the lawsuit. The corporation said in the court documents, which were obtained by Today.com, that Aldi's packaging is, quote, likely to deceive and confuse customers and dilute the distinctive quality of Mondelez's unique product packaging, and, if not stopped, threaten to irreparably harm Mondelez and its valuable brands. Basically, they're claiming that Aldi is intentionally making their chocolate sandwich cookies look as similar as possible to Oreos, with the idea being that they will trick customers into purchasing them, where the customers look at Oreos and then look at Aldi snacks and think, well, these are basically the same, I'll go with Aldi's version because I like Oreos. And this also creates a separate issue where, say, Aldi has a bad batch of their chocolate sandwich cookies. Well, then people might try what they think are Oreos for the first time, but they're actually the Aldi brand, not like them, and then never purchase Oreos again, thereby harming Mondelez International's image and their name and their product, despite the fact that they had nothing to do with that. Mondelez is suing for monetary damages and is also asking the court to stop Aldi, which has its headquarters in Germany, from distributing the alleged copycats. The suit did not specify the amount for the damages. The suit contained side-by-side comparisons of Mondelez's snacks next to the items sold by the grocery chain. Next to images of Oreo, wheat thins, vanilla wafers, and rich crackers were Aldi's original chocolate sandwich cookies with vanilla filling, a great name, thin wheat original crackers, vanilla wafers, and golden round crackers. Mondelez pointed out similarities in packaging, colors, fonts, and symbols. Now, I couldn't find the original image of the lawsuit because it's behind a bunch of paywalls, but what I've got here is basically the same thing. This is Aldi's stuff down here at the bottom, and this is Mondelez's stuff up here at the top. Nabisco is also owned by Mondelez International, and you can kind of see what they're getting at. This is very, very similar packaging. This is very, very similar packaging. This is very, very similar packaging. It's very obvious that Aldi knew that Oreo or Chips Ahoy or Nutter Butter has a great brand reputation. Most everyone that likes snacks or likes desserts likes these. And as a result of that, Aldi is making a very intentional play to make their snacks seem equivalent via very similar packaging and the cookies themselves being very similar. But I also want to point out here that most private label brands do look very similar to the name brand item that they're knocking off. And we'll talk more about later, but I want to finish up what the lawsuit says. Defendant's business model involves an emphasis on low-priced private label products that resemble the look and feel of well-known brands, Mondelez said about Aldi's marketing strategy, which is essentially correct. According to Mondelez, the company previously contacted Aldi about its copycat items. The suit alleged that Aldi responded to the request, and this is very important, by discontinuing or changing the flagged products, but the supermarket has since, according to the snack company, continued its pattern and practice of selling products in packaging which infringes on the trade dress of numerous Mondelez products. And this is a pretty significant section of the lawsuit because Mondelez International is essentially claiming that Aldi knows what they're doing. And despite Mondelez saying, hey, stop doing this, Aldi acknowledged that what they were doing was wrong, or at least could have been wrong in the court of law, by changing it ever so slightly, but then either going back or continuing to update their designs to continue to look like Mondelez International's food products. And this right here could be kind of a dangerous situation for Aldi, because if it turns out that they knew what they were doing was wrong, or at least wrong enough that they felt the need to change it to avoid going to court, then there's a chance that Mondelez can say, look, they even knew what they were doing was wrong, and they were just trying to skirt the absolute edges of the law. I don't know if that makes or breaks the case, but it looks bad in the court of law. So that's the overview of the lawsuit. Mondelez International is saying that Aldi is copying its products and its product packagings with the express intent of winning over customers who like Mondelez's products, but would rather pay the Aldi prices for it. And this is a very interesting and potentially very significant case because almost every mainstream grocery chain has their own private label now. So the ramifications of this could be pretty significant. And before we talk about where that could go or what that might do, if you like this kind of video, then I post 2 or 3 times a week and I'd love a subscription. Now, as for if the case has any actual validity, I can't really say. I'm not a judge, I'm not a lawyer, but what I can say is that most rip-off products look really similar to the product that they are ripping off, and I think everyone knows this. This is very obviously intentional. Here, I just pulled up a picture of a bunch of them that all look like Oreos with the express intent of getting people who want to eat Oreos without having to pay Oreo prices. But the interesting thing about this is that some of these look really, really similar, but Mondelez has not sued any of these other companies. This one right here, the Aldi Benton's brand, that is the only company that they have sued. So here is what I think is actually going on here. Mondelez isn't growing particularly well as a company. You can look at their stock price and see that over the last year or so, their stock is down almost 2.5%. Over the last 5 years, sure, it's up 26%, but the rest of the market and a lot of other companies are up like between 100 and 200% at that time. Mondelez International is not keeping up with the competition. And this kind of makes sense when you think about it, because they make sugary snacks, which are very much a discretionary purchase. It's not like bread or milk or chicken that people pretty much buy no matter what's happening because those are just staples of the American diet. These are products that people could purchase, or if they don't have much money, then they could just choose not to purchase. And when lots of people are unsure about the economy, like a lot of people are right now, it's very easy to pull back on sugary purchases like this. And it's especially easy to pull back when there's another product that's essentially identical on the shelf right next to the Oreos that looks exactly like Oreos and is way cheaper than Oreos. And very notably, pretty much every company is doing this. If you want to buy Oreos and walk into a Walmart, boom, great values right there. Or if you want to buy Oreos and you walk into a Kroger, then this is true. They have Cream Betweens, which is actually the name of their Oreo ripoff. Or if you want to buy Oreos and you walk into an Aldi, then you get Benton's chocolate sandwich cream-filled cookies. But I don't think that Mondelez wants to actually sue everyone, or nor do they even really want to sue the big players like Walmart and Kroger, who have ripoffs that look really similar. Rather, by suing Aldi, they can kind of test the waters of this case on a much smaller, privately held company that would be much easier to beat in a lawsuit because they have fewer resources. And if they beat Aldi, well, then they've got a precedent that is set by a previous court that they can use to go after Walmart, Kroger, and all the other ripoff brands by saying, look, a judge has already ruled in our favor once, go ahead and change your packaging. It makes it a lot easier to win lawsuits in the future if a precedent is set and you have something to point to already. Most likely, this is a play to force other companies to change their packaging so that Oreo is the only one that kind of resembles this blue with a picture of cookies on front of it, or the shape or something like that, with the idea being that Oreo would stand out more if everyone else was forced to change their packaging colors or textures or fonts. So I suspect this is them dipping their toes in the court case to see if they can use this as a strategy to force everyone else to change while they don't have to change, thereby boosting their profits because they have the only packaging that looks like this, and this is what customers are used to purchasing. But personally, I hope this doesn't work. I love Aldi. I almost exclusively shop there, and I basically never buy name brand products anymore because Aldi has the identical thing for much, much cheaper. Thanks for watching.